Yeah. Yeah, this is fun. And it is. It's like going into that season. Well, first of all, okay, everyone knows Grace. And if you don't, Grace has been on multiple episodes and I will definitely link them below. But Grace, thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to hear your wisdom on this topic we're going to talk about today. So we are talking about tips and tricks for the holidays because as we enter this season, it is really hard. I mean, I feel like it brings different things to the table for different people. Of course, it could be family stress. It could be, some traumatic events that have happened that kind of trigger us during the season. Or it could literally just be like you are worried about your eating habits, during this time. It's hard, right? We are kind of bombarded with advertisements, sugar, parties, alcohol, you name it. So where do we start, Grace?
Yeah, that's such a good intro. And thank you so much for having me back. This is so fun. I always love talking with you. But yeah, so I thought this would be supportive for the listeners because the holidays, we're now in this full blown pre holiday season, right? Halloween has come and gone. Thanksgiving is up next, and then we've got Christmas. And I think like Hanukkah, there's like all the other. I'm not as well versed in some of the other traditions, but I've heard that they're all happening in the same week. So there's just
Mm-hmm.
like it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So a lot of family gatherings, a lot of focus around food,
Mhm.
travel, stress, gifting, finances. It's like
Oh
all
my
these
God, yeah.
things really come to a head. So I thought it'd be supportive to mention how I help support my clients through times like
Mhm.
this, and see if anyone can just, get some gold nuggets from this conversation here today. And so what I do is specifically I help women with Hashimoto's lose weight, reboot their energy, overcome stress, and revive passion in their career and life. And I do that by just holding their hand through the process of their transformation. And uh, as you know, right, life is going to happen. So it's not about being able to lose weight or maintain your energy or maintain your
Mhm.
health when life is good, when everything's
Mhm.
perfect, because
Mhm.
we know that's never going to last.
Mhm.
It is never like if you're waiting for the perfect moment to work on your health, you are going to be waiting your whole entire life.
Mhm.
So the time is now. And when you have the support of a coach who can help you navigate and hold your hand through that process, hold you accountable, help you pivot,
Mhm.
that can be extremely supportive in just really ingraining this new lifestyle that you're trying to create for yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah, I thought maybe we could just go through some ways that I help guide people through that process so that they
Mhm.
can remain consistent and achieve the health goals that they're setting out to achieve.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Awesome. Well, let's start with Thanksgiving because this is right around the corner,
Yeah.
right? So one of the biggest, I think one of the biggest common themes that I hear is like, well, um, if I enjoy myself at Thanksgiving or if I indulge, then what's the point, right? It's like you kind of start sliding off
Yeah.
your routine and then it just all goes downhill from there. And you're like, well, what's the point? So now I'm just gonna have ice cream every day and I'm gonna
Mhm.
like do this and I'm gonna eat dairy when I know it gives me a stomach ache and I'm just gonna, eat all the pies every single day, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's that all or nothing mindset
Mhm.
that sometimes we fall back into, especially during the holidays.
Mhm.
Um, and this, I don't know if you've heard this before, Megan. This is a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset.
Mhm.
What do you know about that? Have you heard that before?
It's my favorite thing, and I felt like I learned that mindset way later in life, and I wish I'd learned it when I was a kid. So I definitely try to apply that, for my daughter. Um, because yeah, if you're just stuck and not open to learning or growing, every single day, then you're stuck in that fixed mindset instead of being open to adapting and changing and dealing with the stressors that we deal with every single day. And it's hard, and accepting that you're not perfect too, making mistakes and being able to adapt, again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, instead of being like, well, this is the way it is and I can't do anything about it until January 1st, when the holidays are over, where there's so much we can do. And it is I think it's also about learning, about listening to your body, Grace, because I heard you say dairy hurts your stomach, or, whatever, like ignoring the fact that, right, these things bother our stomachs and we still indulge on them anyway. I mean, I personally, I can feel that, because I eat gluten free, but also sugar bothers me, and I still continue to eat sugar. And it's just like, I'd love for you to touch on that too, how to kind of, why do we, and we might not know why we do that, but how can we kind of avoid that during the holidays?
Yeah, I do want to get into that because I think the sugar and the stress component are
Mm-hmm.
absolutely linked, and that
Oh,
just like
totally.
psychological need.
Yeah.
But stick with me on the fixed versus growth mindset here
Okay.
because I love that this is your favorite thing. And what I want you and what I want the listeners to understand is that if you have ever had a fixed mindset or you feel like this is you, just know that it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're like, I had this in the past when I was younger, and I've had to really work to create more of this
Mm-hmm.
growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not your fault. Did you go to public school?
No. Not
Did
until I
you?
was older. I was homeschooled. So, I mean, I do think you're right. It's not your fault. So, I think it's like really just what you're educated on. And if someone teaches you how to think
Yeah.
like that, it's how you're spoken to. It's how, like, as a parent, how we speak to our children. It's how teachers speak to you. All of that really molds you into being in that mindset.
Well, perfect example, right? And that's really cool. I didn't know that you were homeschooled, but
Mm-hmm.
it's that pass or fail,
Mm-hmm.
right? Win or lose, black and white. Like you got it or you didn't. You
Mm-hmm.
passed the test or you didn't. There's no
Mm-hmm.
in between.
Yeah.
So that's a very fixed mindset, like
Yeah.
all or nothing, pass or
Yep.
fail, right and wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So and it's not our fault because we were kind of raised since we were really little to like,
Mm-hmm.
want to get A's or be good in school, and if we're not, then we must be bad, right? Good
Mm-hmm.
versus bad. There's no in between. Um, so when we take that mindset in the holidays, for example, and we're like, oh, I was really bad. I was really bad for the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, if we really break that down, were you bad? Like, what choices did you make were supportive for you? Well, maybe on Thanksgiving you got up and you did the turkey trot or you got a little movement in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you still drank your water. Maybe you did have one vegetable on your plate, right? So it's
Yeah.
about focusing on what's good and what's working
Yep.
versus like this blanket statement, oh, I was bad or I failed at this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we feel like we're a failure or we feel like we're bad, we're going to do things in alignment with that label that we put on
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
But if we give ourselves room to say it's okay to stumble and it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
have setbacks and it's okay to not always be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
then you give yourself permission to um, not identify
Mm-hmm.
right as that like one label that you have on yourself, and then you give yourself that room to grow and explore and feel good about yourself and feel good
Mm-hmm.
about what you were able to accomplish, right? It's a totally different energy shift
Mm-hmm.
when you think about that. um so that probably people weren't expecting to hear when
Yeah.
we talk about like being healthy through the holidays, but really that mindset of feeling like, oh, I failed myself or it's this all or nothing kind of thing. um I'm curious, like ask yourself, how does that serve you? Is that
Mm-hmm.
serving you? Does that make you feel good
Yeah.
about
Well, because I
yourself?
think that's where people spiral, right? Because if you have that all or nothing mentality, then you're like, well, I was so bad today. Why not just continue this cycle until I can change everything and start over again? But it's like, you don't have to start over. You can do what you
Mhm.
just said and, like, take the positives. Like, I had protein at this meal. I actually did eat two really healthy meals, and then I had my indulgences at Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. But like, you still had a really great day, and
Mhm.
you don't need to eat just horrible foods until after Christmas. You can eat healthy foods tomorrow, and kind
Mhm.
of learn. And I think too, Grace, like you're saying, like, take those things that maybe you thought were bad and get curious about them, and see, like, well, how did that make me feel when I ate all of that? Like, what can I do tomorrow that will make me feel a little bit better?
Boom. Yeah. So if you shift into that growth mindset, you're able to see the learning opportunity in your
Mm-hmm.
mistakes. You don't fall prey to like the guilt and the self-loathing. Oh, I did it again. I can't believe I
Yeah,
did this
the shame
again.
around it. The shame around
The
it.
shame. Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 And right, we can't learn when we're coming from a place of guilt and
Mm,
self-loathing and shame. We're just
yeah.
feeling really bad. We're just feeling really crummy.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think like when we're focusing on that negative energy, whether it's like stress or like you're feeling guilty about something or I don't know, anything that might be going on in your life, we do tend to go towards the foods that don't make us feel good, which is like the total opposite, right? And I am 100% guilty of this as well. It's like, why can't we go for those foods that we know are going to make our bodies feel good? You're going to have better energy, you're going to sleep better, all those things. But unfortunately, we don't always make those choices.
Yeah.
So if we focus on the positive and what we did well, you're saying we will start to go in the right direction. You'll be in a
Yeah.
better place.
Right. You can cultivate those positive emotions and, your own self-efficacy, self-confidence,
Mm,
feeling good about yourself. And from when you're in that state, you're not as stressed out.
mm,
You're not as stressed out.
yeah,
Um, when we're feeling those lower vibration emotions like guilt and shame and frustration and overwhelm, right? We're stressed. We're in that
mm,
stress response.
yeah,
And so speaking of stress, right? I know for me the holidays bring up a lot of stress.
yeah,
But like I am already mentally preparing for that.
yeah.
Because I know this is one of my triggers. I know this about myself. So it's like I want to prepare myself for this and use all of my tools
Mm-hmm.
because when we're in that stressed out state, of course we're going to seek comfort because it's really uncomfortable to be in that
Mm-hmm.
state. So we're seeking comfort. Well, what's comfortable? Sugar,
Yeah,
alcohol to numb our feelings,
yeah,
um, you know, uh anything like super decadent or like a comfort food for you.
yeah,
Like those are just like quick, easy things that you can grab to try. Like you have good intentions,
yeah.
right? Because you're trying to just bring your body back into balance when something feels in dis-ease,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not effective.
No, and it's
It's
so fleeting. And I think we're talking about like dopamine hits, right? And I think I mean, a huge thing to put out there too is like we're talking about really addictive substances that, I feel like are triggered by certain events, which we're talking about the holidays, right? Like, so you're used to whether you're going away or traveling, you're used to eating differently. Whether you're eating Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, you're used to whatever every year you have a tradition cookies, pie, M&M, whatever it might be. Our brains remember that and we have really ingrained patterns and they want that dopamine hit, and then of course we might be uncomfortable with conversation or family dynamic or we're out of our routine and we're craving, like you said, that comfort, and we want that hit, over and over again, and our brain remembers it. It's just like how it remembers how you're supposed to eat a meal at noon or whenever you usually eat, and it's like, oh, you're hungry. It can do the same thing for sugar, and to feel that fleeting comfort of like, all right, I'm okay, I'm just gonna keep eating. But again, these substances are really addictive, so once you start, it's going to be a little bit harder to stop. I'm not saying never eat
Mhm.
sugar, but it's addicting.
And it's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an excellent point because it's addicting and then you get in that vicious cycle of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm stressed, right? I
Mm-hmm.
need that dopamine hit. I need to address the
Yeah,
all the
or
excess
that cup of
cortisol in my
wine. Yep.
system.
Yep.
So you do the sugar or you do the alcohol, your blood sugar goes on a freaking roller coaster ride, your
Mm-hmm.
hormones basically signal to your body, okay, we need to we're still stressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the hormone shifts from the sugar. And then it just makes you more stressed and then you want more sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like
Right.
it just
Well,
goes
and then you're
around and
tired,
around
and then you're
and
in fight or
around.
flight, and then it's just like, yes, you're right. It's a completely vicious cycle. And yeah, I mean, I think like you really have to be aware of what you're doing, and how to pull yourself out of it, to use your tools to pull yourself out of it, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So growth mindset, you're not a bad person if you feel stressed and you
Mm-hmm.
have some alcohol or you have the
Hmm.
sugar, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
whatever it is that your vice is. You're not a bad person, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to help you explore is what other tools do you have
Mhm.
to help manage this stress?
Yeah.
Can we create this toolkit for you going into the holiday season where you don't feel like it always has to be alcohol or sugar so that you're getting
Mhm.
caught up in that cycle?
Mhm.
What else could you do that helps you feel good and breaks that cycle?
Mhm. I mean, for me, it's my routine, which is, still having that time for myself, whether it's meditation, journaling daily. I do both of those, and exercising. And I think like maybe planning ahead the meals that you do have control over, right? So say you're going to someone's house for Thanksgiving, you really don't have full control over that meal. So, focus on the meals that you do have control on. And maybe bring something that you do want to eat, right? Like a veggie platter or something that will nourish your body and you can still indulge on the other things as well. Um, Controlling what you can control, and our
Mhm.
routine is something that should be the backbone of your health anyway. And if you have that to fall back on, it doesn't feel as so chaotic and stressful when you have to do these things that are completely outside of your control.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah,
you do,
brilliant.
Grace?
And what I'm hearing you say too is you're like, okay, I have my routine. It helps me feel grounded, it
Mm-hmm.
helps me feel centered. And in that routine, I heard things like exercise,
Mm-hmm.
journaling, right?
Yeah,
So those are things that bring down the cortisol and help manage the stress,
exactly.
right? Getting
Yeah.
your thoughts out on paper and processing through emotions. So they're not just getting trapped in your body. Exercising. So you're kind of like letting off some steam a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Getting those good endorphins and those
Right.
like mood boosting hormones that can help with combat the cortisol. Um, yeah. So, and I definitely want to share some things that are helpful for me, but
Mm,
the caveat here is that everyone's toolkit is going to be unique to you. Okay.
exactly.
So I'm going to say things like taking an Epsom salt bath. That
Yeah.
really helps me, like getting the magnesium in my body. Magnesium
Yes.
helps pull the cortisol out of your body.
Yes.
Okay. So, but some people hate taking a bath, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Like if you hate taking a bath, don't do that.
I know, right?
Don't take
I
a
was just saying this the other day. I talked at a women's group and I was set, someone asked me one time, they're like, how do you cook beets to make them not taste disgusting? And I was like, just don't eat them. What are you talking? If you don't like them, you don't like them, right? There's so many different vegetables out there, and that goes for anything, right? You can find a way to reduce your stress, find an exercise you love, find a food that you love. There's always an option. And I love that you said that. I actually like baths though, Grace. So I think a magnesium bath or an Epsom salt bath is incredible.
Right? So good. Another thing for me is I really love my essential oils.
Mm.
So I will diffuse, I use stuff from doTERRA. So if anyone's
Mm-hmm.
familiar with the Serenity blend,
Oh, I
I
don't.
diffuse that all night long, helps me
Okay.
sleep like a baby. Um, I have like little essential oil rollers
Mm.
that help manage stress and make you just feel more balanced and
Mm.
grounded. I use those quite often. I love infrared sauna,
Mm.
red light therapy where I can just
Yeah.
relax. Walking, just
Love
getting
walking.
outside. And I want to get a little bit deeper into walking. And I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this, Megan. But
Yeah.
walking and right, getting some fresh air, some fresh perspective, maybe some vitamin D. I know that's harder this time of year.
I know.
Um, and just getting a little bit of movement,
Mm.
that can shift so much. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
And here's where I want your opinion because I am very prone to going on a walk and like listening to a meeting or listening to a podcast or bringing my phone with me.
Mm.
And I'm finding that I'm actually not feeling as rejuvenated when I do that. So I've been experimenting with leaving my phone behind and just
Mm.
learning how to be on a walk and be sort of bored and like
Yeah.
listen to nature and listen to the sounds and be with my body. And it's like night and day. So even though it's the same thing, it's a
Mm-hmm.
walk, the way that I'm doing it and figuring out what works better for me.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm always someone. Remember we did the podcast on our top strengths, and mine
Yeah.
was love of learning. So I always
Yeah.
want to be like listening to a podcast or improving
Yeah.
myself. But it's like, wait a minute, that is good intention, but I'm kind of missing the mark in just having like centering myself and having that peace.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts around walking and the tech and
I'm walking, so I actually don't listen to anything. I actually don't listen to anything when I run either. Yeah, I trained for my marathon without listening to any. People think I'm like nuts. Like I just run in silence, and I absolutely love it. And I feel like walking too. It's like those are when my most creative thoughts come up. When I'm walking in silence. So a lot of times I don't walk with my phone a lot, but if I do feel like I'm trying to create something or like think something up, I will bring it so I can take notes. Because then by the time I get home, I like forget it. But I really do love walking in silence, whether I'm like kind of meditating while I'm walking or just letting my mind be completely still, because there's not much time where I do let my mind be completely still, especially like when I'm in my house. So yeah, no, Grace, I think it's a game changer. And I think especially, when we are going into the stressful time of the holidays, I think first of all, walking is incredible to really just like, and not work your food off. This is not the point of walking. I mean, I think it's great to help digestion for sure.
Yeah, and blood
But to burn
sugar.
calories, no. I think it is a great place though if you need space, right? If you're staying at someone's house and you need to have that quiet time and you might not be able to get it in the chaos at the house, I think walking would be great for that. And I think walking is really just a great time to collect your thoughts and find gratitude, right? Because we are going into these holiday season where we should be so grateful to have whatever we have, our family, the things that we're getting or what we already have. I think finding gratitude with walking is huge, and really just to pull all your thoughts back together and give yourself that space in your mind to just rest. I mean, it sounds silly because you're not really resting, but you are, right? Because like, think if you're in your house, you're either on your phone, your computer, you're talking to someone, you're constantly using your brain. So really just to let your mind just go. What are you going to think about? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like, do you find that your creativity comes to life when you're walking? What do you think about?
I want to answer this question, but I just want to acknowledge you. This is why I freaking love talking to you, because every time I talk to you, I'm like inspired. This idea of a gratitude walk, like creating space for gratitude. This is why I freaking love you.
I'm telling you, when I run or walk in silence, it's definitely a practice, right? It's something you have to practice to get good at, because yeah, when the first time you do it, you're like, wow, I'm so bored. This is weird. But you really start noticing everything around you, and it does bring forth such a place of gratitude, because you're like even this morning, so now it's lighter in the morning, I get to see this like stunning pink sky, where like if I had headphones on, I mean, maybe I would have noticed it, but would I have really appreciated it? I don't know. You notice so much more around you. My husband thinks I'm absolutely nuts, but I talk to the animals when I'm running. It's so silly, but I'm like, I think it's so beautiful. They're out in their peaceful time, and I get to like experience that with them, where if I was listening to something, I might not even notice.
Yeah. That, I don't know, when you talk about that, it's bringing up for me connection, just feeling connected to nature, and knowing that sometimes we just feel so disconnected when we're on our devices, or we're meeting over Google Meet right now. It's like sometimes it can just feel disconnected in our world, and to just take a minute and breathe and have gratitude and feel connected to nature, like, oh, I'm not alone, like I'm supported, I got this.
Yeah.
Like, that's so powerful.
It's
That's
so powerful. And if you actually like read about some of the like biggest scholars like in history, walking is when they would do their biggest thinking. So it's really is a game changer. If you're like a creative person, or even if you just like you're trying to think up anything, like it really just it's huge for your mind. Yeah.
Have you heard that there, like, the science behind that creativity is that bilateral stimulation for the brain?
No.
So when you're walking, you're getting
Yeah.
that bilateral stimulation with
Yeah.
each step. So it's like kind of activating both hemispheres
Yeah.
of your brain. So that's
Yeah.
why it's like some of that creativity can start to pop up.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I have I was certified through Original Strength, and like they're all about that like bilateral movement and how it stimulates your brain, but it didn't click with me. But yeah, cuz I mean, walking is just so natural, right? You don't even think of like your brain working then.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's really cool. I love
Yeah, and the
walking.
original strength, I didn't do it, but I know about it from you and
Yeah,
Nora, and it's about that nervous system regulator too, like
exactly.
having that bilateral stimulation. Not only does it help your brain and creativity and process, but it's like it helps reset your nervous system.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who'd have thought a walk, like you're like, okay, these girls, they're freaking talking about a walk, but really it helps your brain, helps with, brain clarity,
Mhm.
focus, memory, creativity. It helps reset your nervous system. It helps you get some vitamin D. It helps
Mhm.
you breathe fresh air, not like these toxic fumes that are in our house. Like we can't avoid that, right?
Yeah.
Um, it helps you process your blood sugar, right? So it
Mhm.
lowers your blood sugar. So if you just had all the
Mhm.
Thanksgiving pie and all the things, just
Yeah.
go for a
Yeah.
walk, and
Instead of
that is
taking a
gonna help
nap, go
your
for a
body.
walk. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, and like you said, it's not about the calories, it's about that blood
Yeah, it's
sugar
not about
spike.
burning calories. I mean, they even say like if you go for a walk after dinner, like before bed, I mean that is going it's a huge health benefit to just help your digestion, help your blood sugar, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean I'd go for a walk at any point, really. Even if you like are you feeling tired during the day, like go for a walk. It will boost your energy. It really will.
That's so
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really great tip.
I know it seems so simple, right? Like people are gonna be like, "What? These girls are saying go for a walk." It is really helpful.
Don't even get us down the track of talking about drinking water and all the good benefits of water, right? It's
Definitely drink
just
a lot of water during the holiday season for sure. Yeah.
yeah, but
Um,
you're right, these things are simple. It's like, "Oh my god, I just have to go for a walk, drink my water, and I'll be okay."
yeah.
It's like, yeah, you will.
Yeah.
You will be
I think
okay.
you really will. Because if you think of even just like, the family stressors and whatnot, and like if you're surrounded by a lot of people, you're gonna go for a walk and you can blow off steam and just like cool off. Maybe you had a hard conversation, or I don't know. That's what I'm planning on doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
that's so
like
cool.
I mean, we're covering obviously Thanksgiving and Christmas, but Thanksgiving's a little bit easier, I find, because it's just one day, right? But like the holiday season in itself, I think that's where we get like really thrown off because there's so many Christmas activities, especially when you have children, especially young children, like Blake. I mean, I know like we all love making cookies and like doing all this stuff. It's like, what would you say, Grace, for that? Like, what would be the number one thing people can do, from Thanksgiving all the way to New Year's?
Yeah. I have like two kind of separate thoughts here that I want to share. The second one is more around travel, and
Mm.
we'll talk more about like routines and
Mm.
getting your personal time. But in terms of all the temptation and all these fun activities, right? The cookies and the gatherings and the Christmas parties and the alcohol,
Mm.
and it's everywhere. Um I think one of the biggest helpful tips is um to first of all take a few deep breaths when you're
Mm.
in that situation. Slow down. So anxiety and stress, they want to go really fast. So we want to just slow that down simply by breathing. Here, another simple hack, if we can
Mm.
even call it a hack, right?
Yeah.
And just really connect with what is most meaningful to you. So
Mm.
let's look at you're at this family party or something, and your aunt made your grandmother's famous pie recipe that
Mhm.
has been passed down for generations, like your favorite as a kid. And then you've got, some other things that are probably not the healthiest choices, um, or they're like, let's say, for example, for me, like stuffing, I'm like, I don't really care about stuffing, but I
Mm.
am not going to miss the mashed potatoes.
Mm.
So it's about choosing what is most meaningful to you
Mm.
so that you don't feel like you're missing out. Like don't just say I can't have anything, right? Again,
Right.
fixed mindset, all or nothing, it's
Yeah.
going to backfire.
Yeah.
So really slowing down and connect with what is most meaningful to me. What would fill my soul? Like
Mm.
connecting with my grandmother and this like special recipe, that would really fill my soul. Not
Mm.
only like fill my stomach, but fill my soul.
Mhm.
So in that, again, it's going to be bio individual. Like, what does each person kind of need, so that
Yeah.
we're not overindulging, like doing all the things,
Right.
but we're really picking and choosing what is most meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And so, if making cookies with your family, for example, if that's like a tradition you don't want to miss and you want to be a part of it, maybe there's a way to alter the cookies that you make, so that you find some cool paleo recipes, or
Mhm.
cookie recipes without processed sugar in them. There are so
Yeah.
many amazing delicious cookie
Amazing.
recipes that I've
Yeah.
stumbled upon.
Yeah.
So you can still hold these traditions and still be present with your family, and some of these standing traditions that are really meaningful to you, but just find those little tweaks,
Mhm.
or find the things that are really most important to you and that really help
Yeah.
you feel your soul. Does that make sense? I'm
Yeah.
rambling a little bit, but
No, no, I love that. I think that it's great because it's almost like you're like substituting. Well, first, like find what means the most to you and what is going to matter, right? Because then you're going to kind of get rid of that guilt and shame, right? Because you're like that mattered to me. I got to experience that.
mhm.
And also like I mean, with traditions, like you said, you can either substitute recipes, or you could create a new tradition that doesn't have anything to do with food. You know, it could be an experience that your child will never ever forget, whether you're like going to see the nutcracker, or I don't know, whatever fuels your family. But I think it's okay to change traditions too. um
And make it work for you in
right,
whatever season of life you're in,
right,
or what, yeah, your
yeah,
family values. And
yeah, yeah, I think that's okay. And I mean, so last but not least, I really want to I want to see what you think about this, but like, so people are pressured, right? We feel pressure, whether it's from our family, like, oh, you're not going to eat that type of thing, or what is the best way, Grace, to kind of gracefully deal with this?
hmm. Yeah, so I can relate to this because, if I've gone to, I mean, even in my own family, sometimes my parents remember that I'm gluten free, sometimes
Hmm.
they don't.
Yeah.
And then with my in-laws too, they'll be like, "Oh, there's just a few breadcrumbs on here. It's not going to kill
Hmm.
you." Right?
Yep.
And then you start to feel bad, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, she like made this casserole thing and I can't eat it." And
Yes, exactly.
um so um man, this is a good question. Um, I really, I just, I think what works for me, I can kind of just speak from personal experience. I think what works for me is I just set my boundaries ahead of time. Like I'm very intentional,
Hmm.
especially around food. Um, and so if something has gluten in it, it's a deal breaker. Like I will not
Hmm.
have that because of the repercussions for me
Hmm.
personally. Um, and so just being kind and saying, "Oh, I'm like, I so appreciate that you made this pie for me, or this casserole. It looks delicious.
Hmm.
Um, I really just can't because it upsets my stomach or XYZ. Um, but could
Hmm.
I like make you a dish, or I don't know. Just I
Yeah.
think leading with kindness and not taking it as like so personal, like a
Hmm.
personal attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, or that you're being singled out or something.
Yeah.
Um, just know that it's not about you. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, even when people are like, "Oh, what? You're not drinking," or you're right. Maybe they feel uncomfortable because you're not drinking, or yeah, I
Exactly.
like it.
It's not about the
Yeah.
drink. It's not about you. It's about them feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
And so just being really kind
Hmm.
and meeting that person where they're at, but
Hmm.
still sticking to your boundaries. That's
Yeah.
so empowering. That's so empowering to, like, have
Hmm.
those like, boundaries are so sexy. It's like, "I got
Yeah.
boundaries," right?
Yeah, and I think you're right because like if you plan ahead and you're really intentional on what you are, open to eating and how you want to behave or what you want to do that day or night, I think it does. Like I said, you can even plan ahead, like bring a vegetable platter, or if you think you're going to have a problem finding something to eat, if you do, like say you're dairy free or gluten free or whatever, because I think a lot of times when we are restricting a certain food group, you go in and you're like, well, is there anything going to be there for me to eat? If people
Mhm.
do forget. So prepare yourself to bring some things that you can eat, right? And then you kind of take that right off the table where you feel like you're pressured to eat that because there's nothing else for you to eat.
Totally. Yeah, the last thing you want is to be, like, hangry and in this situation
Right.
where you're like, "Oh my god, this
Right.
I'm miserable."
And you're
Yeah, so I
spiraling.
this is the last piece I wanted to touch on, from your last question, but so I usually have to travel for at least
Mhm.
one of the holidays. My family is super spread out,
Yep.
and so I'm with people for a week at a
Wow.
time, like out of
Wow.
my element, out of my own bed, right? In someone else's environment, trying
Mm,
trying to find some resemblance of my routine. And that can be really hard.
yeah.
But what has worked really well for me that I wanted to share is two things. So because I um I'm gluten free, and I like to maintain my nutrition a certain kind of way because it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
um, I will bring a humongous bag of snacks with me. Like, I bring
Yeah.
all the things. I bring my almond flour crackers. I bring my gluten-free pasta in case
Yep.
someone's making pasta, because I know that's gonna happen.
Yep.
I'm bringing the certain salad dressings that I like.
Yes.
I'm bringing like all the snacks, like
Yeah.
all my meat sticks, right? Like all the things, so that I know at the end of the day, even if there is nothing for me, that I brought something for myself that I can
Yeah.
still enjoy and participate.
Yeah.
So that has been super helpful, and it like leaves you in less of a panic,
Mm-hmm.
to just be prepared in that way. The
Right.
second thing that has helped me tremendously, and this is when I'm with my in-laws for like a week straight. Um, and I am someone that I really need my alone time.
Mm.
I need my alone time. I
Totally.
can't I'm very extroverted. I love people, but I also really value my alone time, and I
Mm-hmm.
need that. So what I did was I was really intentional about leaving the house every day and
Mm-hmm.
going and doing something for myself. So whether it was a walk, whether it was going to a local gym in that area, I would get this little drop-in pass to go do something.
Mm-hmm.
I booked myself a massage one day. I was like, I'm going to go have a little shopping afternoon, and I went out in the town and just did some shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, I think I one day I went and brought myself out to breakfast, like
Yeah.
just me. I just
Yeah.
left the environment so I could recharge my batteries, and
Yeah.
oh my God, night and day. My
Yeah.
stress levels, usually it takes me a week to recover after a situation like that, when you're just around family
Yes.
24/7, and you're not
Yep.
in your environment, you're not sleeping well because you're in someone else's bed and
Yeah.
whatever. And it takes me a week to recover, and I was good. Like, I felt good because I was giving myself that time and space.
Yeah.
um so yeah, like kind of planning ahead, be prepared,
Mm-hmm.
bring some snacks, so that at the
Yeah.
very least you have a snack, and then just do what you need to do to fill your cup.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like, do that, and carve out that space. It's going to be so worth it.
Yeah. I love that. I think that would be such a game changer because then you're not going to spiral into that, like, where you're so stressed out by day 3 or 4, where you're just like, I'm going to eat everything. I'm going to drink everything. I'm exhausted. Yeah, you got to recharge every day.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And like, I'm just more, if I don't do that, I'm more irritable. I
Mm-hmm.
can't be as present. I'm
Yeah.
reaching for that alcohol, like one drink after the next, right?
Yeah.
It's not pretty. I'm not a
Yeah.
fun person to be around when I'm like,
Same. Same. Yeah. Yep. No, I hear you. I think that's awesome. So I think we did a little. This is a little toolbox, Grace.
I know I think we really ran the gamut here. So hopefully this wasn't too overwhelming.
No, I think it's great.
But yeah, I think, I love listening to podcasts and soaking up all this knowledge.
Mm,
Um, but I think some of the best ways to consume this is decide for you. Maybe there was something inspiring that you heard here,
yeah.
and just pick the one thing that you want to work on.
Yeah.
Start really small. And what's that one thing? Is it doing your walks? Is it drinking your water? Is
Mm-hmm.
it getting your own personal time in? Is it packing snacks? Like,
Yeah.
just figure out what that one thing that you think will help you through this holiday season, and run the experiment. Like, run the
Mm-hmm.
experiment and see how it goes for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear about it. So, yeah. Good luck, everyone. And yeah, I think one thing is perfect. I'm trying to think what I'm gonna do. I mean, I'm definitely a planner, so I'll probably start planning right after we finish this podcast. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all your wisdom always.
You
And yeah,
too.
we'll have you back again. Thanks, Grace.
Yeah, this was so fun. As always, love you, girl.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.